Let's get started on removing these panels and get them ready to be painted. So first thing you want to do is take off these buttons. Be really careful and while you're trying to pry them off. It's fairly easy, but just make sure you're gentle with it. There you go. And they clip into these things right here on the side. So again, it's really easy to get that off. You just got to be able to get your trim tool in here and then kind of gently wedge it up. Trying not to break anything here because I'm the first time doing this. There we go. Came right off. Sounds crazy, but it comes off fairly easily. Again, the little clips on the side here just pop right off with these little inner clips, or I guess inner brackets. So with that in mind, now it's time to remove this plate. And there are two screws. One, as you can see here, and the other one is down here. Let's see, you guys can see it. Let's see. There it is, right there. It's better. So it is a Torx 25 head. Next step is to remove this panel, obviously, but the tricky part is there's this section down here. Hoping you guys can see it right down here. This part right here is sandwiched between the seat and this unit. So what you want to do is just kind of pull this out, which comes out fairly easily. Pull it back towards the bottom of the seat, and then kind of slide this over, and then angle it out, and it comes off. Alright, so the next thing you want to do is, since I'm removing the entire switches, or the switches here for the seat, because I plan to paint this along as well as the seat backs. You want to go ahead and just remove all of these screws here that hold these I guess the levers in place, or I guess you can call it the switches for the motor. So once all the screws are out, these units will pop off really easily. Just be careful, obviously they're pieces of electronic, and the last thing you want to do is break these controls. Anyway, it's out. I'm planning to tape these down so that way they don't go missing at the body shop. Alright, so the next step is to remove this piece here, this panel, and you need to remove this screw here, and then down here, if this thing would focus, the other piece of this panel clips into here, and it just comes right out like that. But definitely remove this screw here, otherwise you're going to snap the bracket. One thing I want to note is hopefully you have a nice Torx screw or Torx wrench set, because these screws are all over the map. I mean, I have this one, I think it was a T27 or 25, and then this one was much smaller than the other piece, or the other screw, and then these are the tiny ones. So I have, you know, a decent set here, but yeah, you definitely need a good set. Alright, so then once that's done, it should snap off. Once you loosen the screw, all you have to do is reach over here, and you see the line here, this is where it disconnects. You just reach in and pry it up. It'll snap, and then it'll pop out of place right here. So this is basically lines up with that, and obviously be careful not to drop the screw. But yeah, tell this piece here lines up with this right here. The next thing you want to do is start peeling back the leather for the seat back here. And where you want to start is from the bottom here. After removing the, I guess, the plate here, you want to get yourself enough grip to grab back down here. If not, use one of these pry tools to kind of pull it out. And you want to start peeling it back. There's this rubber piece here that snaps into a groove. So all you have to do is just kind of get your hand in there and start taking it out. As you can see right here, this is the piece I was talking about. See that? The little rubber piece. So it's attached to the leather itself. Once you're able to get a hold of that, start pulling it out gently. And what you'll notice here is there's a little groove in there. So you can see it. There it is. This little groove. Sorry, this little groove right here. You want to try to wedge this in here and press it down. That'll release this rubber piece from that little clip in there, that little clip in there, as you can see. There it is. And it's throughout the whole seat back here. So anyway, you're gonna do that. Once you do that, you start peeling everything back. This one here is a little tricky in this corner. And you want to continue going and peeling that back. And that'll allow you to release the seat covers, and then you have access to the back of the seat here on this side. Fabric off here, off to the side. Anyway, as you can see, it starts to come off, and that'll give you access to the airbag once you peel this foam back. But be very, very careful, because there's no other way to get to the airbag screws that hold it in place than this seat back, or this foam. So anyway, like I said, be very careful peeling it back. It's glued down. You want to take your time in peeling it back. Okay? So you continue working away, or I'm sorry, around, by gently pulling the rubber off the seat back. Some of these clips are not holding in place, which is fine. I'll figure a way to bend them back later. But just gently pull back and work your way all the way to the opposite side. All right. The next step is to remove the center insert, and you need to start with removing or unhooking the leather in the back here. And I already started, but you'll notice there are some clips under here. Let's see if I can get a light for you. So you'll notice that clip right there, and then it goes along the back here. And one way to unhook that clip is to use your trim tool and slide it under here and put pressure on it, and then pull this leather piece out, and that should unhook a few of it, and then you kind of work your way down, and you should be able to remove the rest of it off. So be careful, if you have heated seats, there's a wire right here, as you can see, this little black wire. That's for the heating element for the back. So be careful with that as you're removing this back portion. Just gently push it back, gently push it forward, and then you want to gently pull this forward as well, and look for the cable. And you can feel it under here. See if you can see it.
that little blue connector, that's the heating element. So be careful with that. Don't yank this out if you have a heated seats. So next, you want to reach your hand in here and pull to the opposite side, and there's a clip, or should I say a wing, plastic wing that sits here, and on the opposite side as well. And you pull that, and then now you have some movement. And then to remove the top piece, you want to lift up because there's a little hook that sits up like this, and the plastic that's holding the seat back in place, this thing here, it actually hooks onto that plastic. So you want to lift this up, and it'll come off just like that. So here's the hook. See if you can see that right there, and then it hooks onto this piece right here. So it jams into that. So anyway, here's the connector. I believe you're supposed to stick a little pin in here, and it should release. All right, so to take this off, you actually have to either push this little groove in here, if you can see it, or kind of wiggle and lift this portion up, this little bridge here, up in order to slide the connector out. I'm hoping you guys can see here. But yeah, so it's a little tricky. It's a little tight. Just take your time. Remember, this is a the heating element connector, and you don't want to damage it. But what I tried to do is I tried to initially push this down. It didn't work. And then I ended up sort of wedging this in here and then kind of prying this up a little bit and then gently pulled it apart. So that's it. Now that the center insert's out, you want to take off this piece here, and you start from the back again, and it's hooked on back here under these leather, or with this leather strap that hooks into the same slot where the center insert was as well. And you kind of want to work your way to the left a little bit and pull it out, or to the right, but the left is definitely much easier. And then you just kind of slide this back under. I think this one's a little stuck under here. I'll have to investigate that for a moment, but it might be stuck because of the seat back. There it is. Yeah, so all I did was just basically folded the seat forward, and eventually I'm going to remove this as well, and these pop off. Use the trim tool and just gently pry them off, and then I got to get the screw off of this one as well. But here this is. So I actually removed these on the side here, and they actually clip. Get the light here. So these actually clip in these sections on this metal piece right here for this, and then up here it hooks into the upper part of this here. So this hooks into this piece, and this hooks into that. But what's kind of tricky is, I'm not sure if you can see very well, but you see that little white piece right here? That part hooks into the trim up here, and as you can see here, it's kind of stuck. So you actually have to take your time and get a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, and just kind of wedge it in here and slowly pull it out. And it's the same across the top here, and then obviously this side has the same as this here. So this side will have the same, and they should be able to take this off. Okay, it came off. So this was a little tricky. They were actually a little bit difficult to take off, but I wedged a flathead screwdriver in here and then slowly pried it out, and it took a little force to pull it out of that contact, but take your time, and it should come off fairly easily, aside from those clips. So The next logical step is to one, be careful because these heating elements are over here as well, so you want to be careful with this section. But yeah, here's the hoses and the cable that runs down here to the heating element, and the connectors are on this side for both. So with that being said, I'm going to be really careful. And the hose here is actually for the pump, for the lumbar support. And yeah, I'm just gonna take my time. And I also noticed that the foam on my seat here is actually glued down, but once you get past this glue, the foam should pry back fairly easily. This piece here obviously took some of the foam with it, or this portion rather. So I gotta be careful. I'm gonna try to get my trim tool to kind of work my way around the edges, and then hopefully I can push this foam back and get to the, I believe there's a few screws that are holding this particular portion of the seat back, the plastic piece here, in place. But yeah, I'm gonna take my time and work on getting that out. This trim piece here, I'm afraid from this initial observation, I may have to remove the top seat altogether by taking out these two torque screws here and here on both sides to get that piece out here too. So let's see. There's another thing I forgot to mention is this right here, this little piece back here that has two tiny torque screw. This right here. It has that Torx, and then there's another one on the bottom side, and then there's one on this side as well that you can see a lot better. That's it. And both of these little, I guess, circuits or something to do with the pump, I guess. Oh, actually I think it is the pump for the lumbar and the side bolsters here. Those are screwed into the seat back. I may have to cut these zip ties here and slide this out of the way in order to get to those little pieces, or those little pumps rather. I started to remove the foam off the hardback here, and that's pretty much the only way to access these screws that are actually holding the plastic back in place. What's been a pain for me right now is the glue that's used to basically stick this foam onto the seat back. As you can see, it's quite sticky, and I was able to remove it, but there's some residue that's still here, but it's super sticky. Like, there's tons of that, and it looks like that throughout the whole, I guess, seat back. But anyway, it's a bit of a pain. So I took my trusty, I don't know, man, I wouldn't say it's a blade, but it's my trim tool, and I basically just try to scrape it off the seat back as much as possible. But anyway, let me finish up this side, and then hopefully we'll get a better view on what screws I need to remove the plastic cover here. Now that the foam is out of the way, you'll notice that there's a ton of glue here. I'm gonna try to clean it up as much as possible before I go get this painted. And then I gotta go find the glue. Look at that, John. Then I gotta go find the glue somewhere. So when I glue this stuff back, this foam here, it'll stick. One thing I do want to note is I had to cut a couple zip ties here, down here, to release this cable that goes to the heating elements. And then there's also, well, not also, but it's connected. The bolsters here, heating elements, are connected to the seat bottom. So you gotta be careful with that. I think I'm gonna go and just have to take this off to get to this piece here, and then this piece here to get those out, to get those painted as well. But yeah, I'm almost there. But yeah, I forgot to mention 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then quite possibly this screw here, and then this one back here as well. All right, let me get started on that and see what happens. I removed the screws earlier, the 6 screws I mentioned earlier. One thing I forgot to mention was the airbag screws, which bolts into the frame, here. And if you don't remove that, or these 2 screws, one here and then one behind, I guess the lumbar support or the bolster support. These are Torx heads, and once you remove those, that should free up the plastic here and also the airbag. And the other thing I didn't mention earlier was removing the cover or the trim piece for the lever to move the seat forward and back. It's actually on there pretty secure, and it takes a little effort to pop it off, but you will pop it off. Don't worry about breaking anything. And don't forget to label these little pieces as you're storing them, like I did here. Airbags just come off fairly easily. And then you need a 10 millimeter to remove the screw. And then this little orange piece here, or clip, push it back towards the wires, and that should allow you to remove the connector. So anyway, let me use 2 hands and not break anything here. Okay, so I removed the pumps from the seat back. As you can see, they're loose now right here on both sides. Now the next thing to do is to pull this down. That'll move the I guess the lever on this side will give you room to actually move it out. Otherwise, what's going to happen is, you see this right here, this will hit that lever and you won't be able to get the seat back out. So when you do that, everything should pop off. Ta-da! There it is. Okay, it's time to remove the lower portion of the seat cover. So I have the seat on its side, as you can tell. You want to start from the edge here and I guess try to get your pry tool in here, this little area, and start wiggling it out. And the rubber piece that basically attaches to this channel in here starts to come out. There's some clips in there that you'll hear me pop. Not a big deal, but it was just run along the side here and just keep it moving all the way across. The back side, you have to do the same thing. And I put my pry tool in here earlier and started wedging it out, and then slowly start pulling it towards you right here, and it will eventually start coming out, as you can see. There it is. Now again, be careful with those cables, just kind of move it past down here, move it to the back, or I should say to the front. And take your time, because you don't want to ruin any of the cables. So anyway, this should come out good. And to take this piece out here, this cover, as you can see what's up with my hand. This piece here, there's a screw to hold it in place. I'm gonna unscrew that, and then I think the tricky part is getting it out from this side, right here. So anyway, I'll worry about that later. First things first, let's take off the cover. So I've been messing around with the lower seat cover for about 30 minutes now, maybe 40 minutes, and I was only able to remove it from the side bolsters and the back here, but I cannot remove it from the metal frame, or rather the foam here, because they're connected by these little black hooks here that are made out of plastic, and I'm afraid that if I break them, I'm not going to be able to reattach it with similar hooks. I think you need a special tool to be able to do that. And then there's also this hook down here, or this wire clamp, and if I cut that, I won't be able to reattach it because, again, I don't have the crimping tool. So best scenario is bring this entire unit to the upholstery shop and let them deal with it, since they're going to be redoing this piece anyway. They're going to basically put the fabric here and then put this section here similar to this leather. I would keep the Alcantara. It feels super nice, but man, it gets dirty really quick. It picks up tons of dust while I was just working on this, and I'm in the house too, so that was a pain, and I don't see myself vacuuming the Alcantara that often. It's just too much to maintain, in my opinion, but it looks beautiful though, as you can tell right here. Okay, thanks for watching.